It's now back to solo fast jets, back to one of the very best solo fast jets. And it's rolling now, the Dassault Rafale C. Sébastien Nativel, the pilot for the 2018 season, his first year as the Armée de l'Air, the French Air Force's solo Rafale presentator isn't a word, goodness me, he's from Escadron de Transformation Rafale 3-4 Aquitaine, the Rafale conversion unit. Into that maneuver with that stunning colour scheme, you could see the leading edge slats of the aircraft deploy. Those slats, which are high maneuver devices, enable the aircraft to gain more alpha and therefore turn a lot more tightly at relatively slow speeds. Performing what the pilot calls the square dart. It's basically describing a square in the sky with a derry turn at each corner, rolling one way, turning the other. Up towards that little bit of cloud overhead the airfield with condensation on the upper surfaces, we saw just what a surging quality this display has.
Yeah, beautiful, truly beautiful, and it's not the first time that it's displayed in the UK. It displayed at the RAF Cosford Air Show.
Sébastien, or Babouk as he's known, is an instructor on the French Air Force Rafale conversion unit. He has previously flown both the Mirage 2000N nuclear strike jet and the 2000D conventional strike aircraft, the latter of which we'll see later in the hands of the French Air Force Couteau Delta team. He's been a Rafale instructor since 2014. The Rafale has displaced, or replaced, I should say, no fewer than 7 other platforms with both the French Air Force and the French Navy. It can perform air-to-air combat missions, conventional air-to-ground missions, nuclear strike, reconnaissance, anti-shipping strike, and they can also fly in the so-called buddy-buddy refueling role. And it was designed right from the start to be exactly that versatile. In towards us with the undercarriage down. feature of this aircraft, Mark, is the Delta Canard configuration.
Yes, and the advantage of this Delta Canard layout is that both of those flight control surfaces produce lift for the aircraft. So when you have a conventional layout where you have the wings actually producing negative lift, so not actually contributing anything to the turning force of the aircraft. But the canards are producing about 50% of the lift that the aircraft produces. So it's quite maneuvering more seat, and also this layout is closely past. Started this display with a thrust to weight ratio of about 1.3 to 1, and with the fuel that's already been burnt, he is now up to about 1.4 to 1, which gives this tremendous vertical performance.
Navy was the first to bring the Rafale into service. We'll see two of its aircraft displaying later. The Air Force followed a few years later, and the type saw its baptism of fire during what the French called Opération Armatin, the action over Libya in 2011. Now coming in for a topside pass, showing us this beautiful special colour scheme. Since then, the French Air Force Rafales have been very heavily involved in Opération Serval in Mali, assisting the Malian government against jihadist forces. And one of the missions flown there is the longest in the entire history of the French Air Force. It lasted 9 hours, 35 minutes. It took off from Saint-Dizier in France, where this aircraft is also based. Four aircraft attacked 21 targets along the way, the mission concluding at N'Djamena in Chad. And it's the sort of performance that the Rafale has demonstrated on operations that have seen it being sold both to Egypt and Qatar, as well as to India. About this display at Cosford was there was something going on all the time. Not just content to do a square turn, there was a derry roll in between each of the manoeuvres and an aileron roll in between each of the manoeuvres. This really is a full-on display, just about to conclude. And concluding like Solo Turk earlier, with a split S manoeuvre to land and the gear coming down now. He's been well taught, Babouk, because Captain Jean-Guillaume Marty, the previous Rafale display pilot, is his coach for this season. And certainly the influences very obvious to see as Captain Sébastien Nativel brings in to land the French Air Force Rafale C. This is the single-seat version. The French also fly the two-seat Rafale B, which they originally thought of as a combat-capable conversion trainer. But in fact, they now have started using that rather like the US Air Force uses the F-15E Strike Eagle with Weapons System Officer in the back.